and I thought I was done with my remarks, but I just have to correct the record, because Senator Gazelka has more than once on this floor misrepresented the actions of Minneapolis City Council. I know at least 2 members of the City Council who are not supportive of the defund, quote-unquote, movement, if you will, and including the mayor in addition to that. So when we talk about a body, let's not generalize. It's very dangerous to make these generalizations. We're not about chaos. We're trying to bring accountability, something sensible as accountability that we can all agree upon in a bipartisan way and manner. What we are refused is to participate in what that accountability looks like by pushing the issue to our conference committee process versus a thorough vetting through our legislative process. So, Mr. President and members and Senator Gazelka, you keep talking about what we passed, sweeping legislation back in the summer, June, July area time frame, after the tragic murder, because now it's legally a murder of George Floyd. And yes, we made a great step forward. But I don't think anyone would think that would be the last step. We left a lot of legislation on the table because it needed more vetting. Vetting that should have happened this legislative session, but that the chair of the Judiciary Committee didn't take up. And members, that's their prerogative. Chairs can decide what bills to bring forward. My only hearing was in one committee, so thank you, Ms. Senator Abler, for hearing and including some of my provisions in your division. But this is not how the legislature and the Minnesota Senate has worked in the recent memory, where we are denied our bills from being heard, we are denied our ideas to percolate and to get public input, and then we get to the end of session and we're told we have no time. Well, that's convenient. That's convenient for a political agenda, but not for the time that we're in. And again, members, we are looked upon as a case study on police and law enforcement accountability. I've mentioned my father and my father-in-law were both law enforcement officers. So this is not against people serving in the National Guard or people serving and coming to Minnesota from Ohio and Nebraska to help us out when all eyes are in Minnesota. And yes, it could have been much worse. But accountability was served in the courts, and now it needs to happen in the legislature. And all we're asking is to consider some ideas, and all of these are actually things that are already happening. There was I mentioned before last week a memo from the Minnesota State Patrol where they have a press release out acknowledging what happened in Brooklyn Center, making changes in their practices. So we're basically agreeing with them in this amendment by talking about the constraining the use of force, by specifying conditions that warrant crowd dispersal, by precisely defining crowd management events, by expressly affirming First Amendment protections, and by partnering with communities on crowd management, and to use best practice to de-escalate. Why is this so radical? Why is this so radical, I ask? So members, let's be careful how we characterize this debate, because we are not talking about chaos. We're not for lawlessness. We are for accountability. And we're asking Senator Gazelka and members of the majority party to thoroughly vet these bills, and don't pat yourself on the back because you are not done with your job. And you have until May 17th to do so. So members, I encourage a green vote on the 850 to further support our law enforcement, to give them parameters, and to walk with them, to innovate what law enforcement and police reform looks like for our state and for our country, to be an example. But I refuse to keep being told that our voices don't matter and that this is going to be solved at the 11th hour of the last day of session by only a handful of people in the room. That is not democracy. That is not fairness, that's not equity, and that is not accountability. Thank you.